We all talk about how important creativity is, but how do you actually teach it? Well, today we're going to crack open a fantastic lesson plan that does exactly that. We're going to break down a step-by-step guide for teaching storytelling and really turning any classroom into a powerhouse of imagination.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? How do you teach something that feels so abstract? It can seem a little intimidating, for sure. But the secret, it turns out, might just be a little bit of smart structure. So let's see how this plan pulls it off. So here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into why stories are so critical. Then we'll get into some fun warm-ups. After that, we'll walk through guided practice before letting creativity run wild. And of course, we'll cover some pro tips and wrap up with how to make that spark of imagination last.
Okay, let's start at square one. Why do we even care so much about stories? It's way more than just a fun thing to do in class. Honestly, storytelling is one of the most basic, fundamental tools we have for connecting with each other.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Storytelling is how we build bridges. It's how we learn empathy and start to see the world from someone else's point of view. And, on a super practical level, it's an incredible way to teach new words in a way that actually sticks because you're learning them in context. It's so much better than just memorizing a list. So how do we get those creative gears turning? You don't just dive into the deep end. You start with some simple but really powerful warm-up activities that are designed to get everyone's brain fired up and ready to go.
Okay, check these out. On the left, you've got the opposite game. You say sit, they stand. You say laugh, they look sad. You see what that does? It immediately shatters those rigid, automatic responses. Then, on the right, good old Simon Says. That's all about sharpening focus and listening skills. Both are absolutely crucial for telling a good story. So with two simple games, bam, you've primed the brain for creativity and concentration.
All right, our minds are officially warmed up. Now it's time for some guided practice. This first session is all about building confidence by tackling a story together as a team. The structure here is just so smart. You start with that quick warm-up, right? Then you ease into a low-pressure discussion with a fill-in-the-blank story. This gets everyone on the same page and builds a little confidence before the main event, breaking into groups to create their own stories. You see that progression? We guide them just enough, and then we let them go. So let's see exactly how that fill-in-the-blank part works. Put yourself in the student's shoes. The teacher shows you this. The crow saw a blank with water at the bottom. Your choices are pot or plate. Which one makes more sense for the story? It's gotta be the pot, right? And that simple choice, it teaches context. You're not just picking a random word, you're actively building a scene that makes logical sense. It's a tiny step, but it shows how every word choice shapes the world you're creating. Let's do one more. Too thirsty to blank, it couldn't. The options are fly or walk. So what makes more sense for a bird that's totally exhausted and dehydrated? To fly, exactly. See, the point here is that this isn't some boring vocabulary quiz. It's a hands-on lesson in how narrative logic works. Through these little guided choices, students start to really get a feel for the mechanics of a good story. All right, the foundation is solid. Now it's time to take the training wheels off. We're shifting from guided participation to full-on independent creation. This is where students really get to take ownership. Just look at the structure for this second class. The warm-up is still there, still quick, but check out that discussion time. A whole 40 minutes dedicated to creating a story where they are the main character. The balance has totally flipped from analyzing someone else's story to inventing their own. And to get the ball rolling, they're given these amazing prompts. Look how personal and relatable they are. You move to a new town. You discover you're good at a new skill. These scenarios anchor the whole creative process in their own lives, which makes the stories they tell so much more authentic and powerful. And then they get this challenge. I love this. Take a famous story that everyone knows and write your own ending. This is such a brilliant way to teach story structure. The students already know the beginning and the middle, so they can pour all their creative energy into crafting a really cool, original ending. This chart really tells the whole story, doesn't it? That guided practice in the first class, it builds that solid foundation of confidence. But it's in the second class, when they start creating on their own, that their sense of creative empowerment just skyrockets. They're not just past sensors anymore, they're in the driver's seat. Okay, let's get real for a second. No lesson plan is perfect, and things can always go a little sideways.
So let's look at some really practical tips for making sure things run smoothly. Look, every teacher knows this stuff happens, but what's great here are the simple built-in solutions. Not enough students for groups? No problem. Pivot to individual stories. Internet connection getting choppy? Just use the chat box. The point is to be flexible. You can adapt on the fly without ever losing the heart of the lesson. And finally, the big one. How do you make sure this amazing creative energy doesn't just fizzle out when the class is over? It all comes down to sparking a lasting imagination through some thoughtful reflection. The lesson plan wraps up with these really powerful questions. They get students thinking about their thinking. How did it feel to be the main character? That connects the creative work to their own emotions, and that's what makes the whole experience really stick. And we're going to end with the very same challenge that this lesson leaves its students with. I want you to do it right now. Look around you. Pick any object. Your coffee mug, a plant, your phone. Can you make up a quick 4 or 5 line story about it? This is the ultimate takeaway. Realizing that stories are absolutely everywhere, just waiting for you to notice them. Go on, give it a try.